lighting. Allegiance to the flag of the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Charles Hitler, present. Charlie Hughes. Present. Jean Delaney,
Present.
Fred Chittum,
Present.
Steve Carter.
Present. Okay, we got approval of the September 2nd meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from September.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to take this time to welcome Jean Delaney here to the planning and zoning. If anybody doesn't know him, this is Jean, and we welcome you.
Glad to be here.
Okay, we got an overview. Is that you, Steve, or
Sure. Yes.
you got goals and objectives and land use?
Yes, so, okay, let me, just take a few minutes to go over the comprehensive plan. Okay, so you guys know it's been a somewhat long time coming. We started the process early this year. We're now at the draft stage. The next step is to have an actual public hearing, which could be next month or later. It kind of depends on the actions you take tonight. But ultimately, it's adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then we would ask the Board of Trustees to have a resolution of support. But it is the Planning and Zoning Commission's document, first of all. It's about the only thing that the Planning and Zoning Commission actually adopts as a plan through the city government process. We've done a lot of work to get to this point. The community survey was critical. In order to do the comprehensive plan correctly, you've got to gather input from your citizens. We did the survey earlier this year. We got a lot of response to some responses. All that results are included here in the document. So we based this plan off of primarily the results of that survey. There's a lot of information here. We don't need to go over it all, just in brief. I did provide the history that I could find. It's a work in progress. I haven't completed that section yet. The community profile is really what I call an inventory of the community. We have information, of course, on our own government, the other government agencies working with the community, commerce and industry, education, so on and so forth. So it's kind of high level stuff. It basically just says, here's the community as it stands today and the various entities that are part of the community. Infrastructure. The water and wastewater system is primary for the city, of course. There's a lot of facts and figures related to that. Transportation, electricity, natural gas, solid waste, broadband, internet. The one thing I'll say, it's very clear from when the city first adopted its comprehensive plan in 2008, infrastructure has been improved across the board. It's really actually impressive. Put it all together in one spot. There was no natural gas system, for example, in 2008. No water and sewer system, of course. Highway 5 was 2 lanes, on and on and on. So there's been a lot of infrastructure improvements since 2008. So on to the goals and objectives. It's what I really call the heart of the plan. This was reviewed at the August 26th public forum, and it's really in the same form as it was presented that night. So this is point 1 of the agenda, and where I would ask for some discussion, making sure the commission is satisfied with the goals and objectives as they're presented. I don't want to get into detail here, but at least hit the high points. Goal number 1 is preserve the village small town feel and character. This was the overwhelming response we got from the community. I can just speak from my own personal experience. I've lived here for 2 years. I love the west side of love the feel of Sunrise Beach. I love the small town nature of it. I'm a guy who's lived in small towns in my past. That's just, me talking, but we heard that throughout the community. I think it's one of the things that the community most values about the area is that what we call the small town feel and character. Improve the village streets and roads. That was a very strong emphasis in the survey, and it's certainly something I've heard as long as I've been here. There's a real need to do that. Not only the MoDOT routes, but of course the city streets, what we maintain locally. Continue to expand the water sewer system. The water sewer system has been essential to the growth of the city, of course, and we want to expand that. There are some areas of the community that are not served currently, and so we want to eventually build out the whole system. Promote economic development, that's kind of a general phrase, but a lot of what we got back from the community through the survey is more business development. How do you do that? It's kind of tricky. There are ways you can do it through your zoning, but I do think it was a pretty clear priority that we heard from people as we went through the survey. Outside of that survey, it's also something we care a lot, right? Why doesn't the city have this? Or, there's been a few businesses closed on the west side over the past year, and I think of Salem, for example. So we definitely got some feedback about how that store created a little void, at least on the west side, and maybe that would be an opportunity for us. At any time, of course, stop me if you have any questions or want to discuss any of this. The new City Hall Police Facility, that was a goal in 2008. It remains a goal today. There was really mixed reviews, you might say, when the community was bold on the need for it. There were certainly some who said, yes, do it. There were others who said, maybe not, it's just not that. So really, we didn't get a consensus, in my opinion, about it. When we had the meeting in August, there was a lot of talk about having a meeting room within the facility. So, I think if we move forward on City Hall Police Station, we want to have that component to it. This room, for example, right now there are 5 people sitting at the dais. This Planning and Zoning Commission should have 7 people. We have 6 right now. Student chapters not here. I mean, we can't really even host a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in this space. If we were to build something or renovate something, my vision at least is for that boardroom to also serve that. Excuse me. For that boardroom to also serve that meeting room purpose. So, should it be a goal? We've been a little bit kind of on the fence, at least internally. For purposes of the plan, it was an MOA plan. We haven't got there. I think going forward, it should at least be a goal. Parks and Rec and walking trails. It was kind of mixed reviews on this. There was definitely people, we definitely got feedback to have those types of opportunities when we think of walking trails or general Parks and Rec. Where we didn't get much support was, establishment of a, call it traditional city park facility with ball fields and all that. We didn't get that sort of response hardly at all. It was kind of mixed, I would say. Certainly there was some support for it, but it didn't, at least in my opinion, there wasn't a consensus that it urged. Provide more housing opportunities. That's kind of a generic way of saying we need more housing, but when you get specific, it's a little bit, again, mixed. I think there's a known need for affordable housing, but when it comes to multi-family apartments, I think rather clearly the community survey was a little wary of that. I don't think the community wants to say no, we don't want that. period, but I think there was a little bit of skepticism of that type of development. So when you go forward through your zoning, it's a little bit tricky. I mean, if you really feel that you want more housing, then you open up your zoning to that type of use. If you want to be more selective and potentially restrictive, you do that. So I'd actually be curious how the commission views housing. And our last goal was open, transparent government. We certainly got that response from through the community survey, and I thought it was important to include it in the. We do our best to provide that now, and there are some limitations, as you all know. This live stream system on occasion doesn't work, but it's just important that we stay as open and transparent as we can. I know the website probably isn't as, I mean, I make an effort to, post everything I can, but I've also got other things to do. We have some limited staff. So, but at the same time, if there's the phone rings, we answer it. We do our best to maintain that standard here. I think it's important to be a goal. So, goals and objectives in a nutshell. What do you think? Is there any?
I have a couple of comments here on the land usage part. Here in this, on page 38,
I'm sorry. I wonder if I might just stop because that is in the land use section, which we're going to get to later.
okay, then you can, I'll wait.
Yes, thank you. I'd rather just stay on the goals and objectives.
Golden objectives it is.
Is there any desire on the part of the commission to tweak these, add, subtract, change?
I kind of got from most of the meetings we were at that the goal of having the walking park and all of that, it was more not all that necessary given priority wise of what the city or the town really needs. And so is that something we want to keep on there, even though it might be a lower priority?
Yeah, I experienced the forums and the survey the same way. In my opinion, it's a lower level priority. Just jump out. As far as including it in your list of goals and objectives, it was in the 2008. Yeah, it's really up to you all.
Yeah, I'm not feeling park and recreational.
It's too expensive for the city.
I think we have bigger fish to fry, but whatever y'all think.
Me too.
I do too.
Did they ever hear anything back on the contingency over here at the school, the property on the backside? That would probably be our only inherent possibility, anyway.
Yeah, if we wanted to either acquire land or develop land or really spend any money on parks, it would stress our budget. We really don't. We could use some general funds, some capital improvement sales tax, but it would really, the best way to approach parks, frankly, is to implement a parks tax. And when it comes to priorities, I would rather strongly say that was not a priority that we found through the survey. So, I mean.
Are these listed in order of a priority or just in general? No.
No, they're not. Preserve the small town village feel is. Now, I didn't put 1, 2, 3, 4 on the goals, but, I mean, we can do that, which.
I was just asking, just wondering if that's how it was.
No, it's not in any type of priority.
I know it's probably low priority and probably costs more than we'd want to spend on it, but a lot of people did mention they wanted to see some recreational spaces. So I don't have an issue with leaving it on there.
I don't have an issue with
No,
leaving it on there.
Yeah, it should be left on there because could always be that situation where somebody, like what was going on with the school, where we could
Maybe
acquire the land.
Yeah, maybe somebody will donate a piece of land somewhere.
It's true. That
Okay.
is true.
And you still don't know for sure it's a no about the land behind the school, right? So that could be,
Yeah, I mean, last year, about a year ago, we pitched this idea, and that was probably a year and a half, to the school district. And really did not get a response. Susan Schneider has since met with them. There hasn't been, to my understanding, a lot of response either. And that's I understand it at this point.
refresh my memory, how far does the plan go to from 25 until, or is it just indefinitely?
It's not defined, so in general, I think you've got to consider it at least probably a 5 to 10 year plan. Most communities, I think, kind of view it maybe as a 10-year plan. I think it was a 5 to 10.
Yeah, 10 would sound more realistic to me. Can't get much done in 5 years towards your goals.
You can't, and, I think, whatever form this ends up in and get adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission, we are going to work on certain areas. And so a lot of it, frankly, is just updates to the zoning code. That will happen over the next several months. If there are identified projects or programs that come out of it, we want to get on it right away. But, let's say we wanted to either acquire an existing building or build some sort of new city hall police. I mean, we're today, 2.5 years from taking occupancy. Realistically.
Without these items being actually prioritized on the comprehensive plan, can one of these less needed events happen before one of the more prominent, like the roads and so on and so forth? Is there not like some sort of stipulation that is put in there under like a cost effectiveness or basic budgeting or anything like that?
I hope I answered your question. As far as the cost considerations, budgeting and so forth, doesn't really enter into the overall thinking. It's kind of almost a wish list in a way. When it comes to actually implementation, of course, it's all about the money to some degree. I'm going to take direction from the Planning and Zoning Commission as well as the boards, what to pursue. I know the commission doesn't deal with the taxation piece, but if there was a recognized priority that arose from the plan, the April 2026 municipal ballot is really right around the corner when it comes to putting something on the ballot. So that could be a conversation. Frankly, it will at some point be a discussion about the board of trustees, but it doesn't. The Planning and Zoning Commission isn't necessarily certainly not directly involved in that.
Are all the things on here, on your comprehensive plan, do they have to be brought up to the board and voted upon before they're enforced within the community?
Sure, absolutely. Any single thing that we did here would have to be to the board. Of any particular impact. Just to be real clear, like any zoning code updates have to go through planning first. Require public hearings, they go to the board of trustees for approval by ordinance. So any zoning code, land subdivision regulation, anything like that has to go through that process. Any spending of $5,000 or more has to come to the board. I don't have authority to spend any more than that. So any contract of any significance, well, it all goes to the board. We're in the budget development right now. Our budget was January 1 to December 31st. So I'm in the process of developing a budget. And, right now, I don't have. I mean, I've got some consultant fees, potential for some of these road projects in particular, but I don't have anything budget for building. And obviously, the budget is adopted by the board as well. So, let me pose a question to the Commission on Housing. There's a general understanding we need more housing, I think. However, when you ask people about apartments and so forth, maybe not. So, what do you think?
Well, there's another question. We talk about we really need more housing, that does. But is that up to the city to do that?
Well,
Why would that be a goal of the city? Because the city's not gonna be buying the land, building the property. Why is it a goal of the city to have that?
it impacts how you your zoning land use code, okay? So if you want to open the door to new housing, you can have very, permissive regulations through your zoning land use. You basically just say, come to town, build your houses, we're going to get out of the way, okay? On the other hand, if you want to be a little more restrictive and control a little bit more, you can do that again to your zoning land use. Any new subdivision, I think right now, even the existing code is 5 lots or more requires to come through plan and zoning. And I mean, I think that's reasonable. But, when it comes to new housing, you guys can be, through your codes, be very specific on what you do and don't want to see. Or you can kind of, go the other direction and just kind of leave it open. And I think, my opinion is there ought to be some sort of balance here. And I think you should have enough in your codes to, regulate development in a way that makes sure that you maintain that small town feel.
Gotcha.
That's kind of the overall goal. At the same time, I don't think we want to be so ticky-tacky, so to speak, to developers. Shocking. Getting through city center speech is a big problem. I don't want to deal with those folks.
Okay.
Housing, you're talking about multi-family house,
I'm
right?
talking about the whole range.
Yeah, any kind. As far as apartments, would that be, considered, they would have to come through planning and zoning to do a apartment complex, or say they threw up a sixplex on 2 lots?
So right now, in order to put apartments up, you have to be zoned for or R3. This is one spot of R3. I think there's a few lots on Beechwood. Anywhere else, you would have to get a rezon or approval through.
So right now, the map's not saying come build apartments.
Right, only real specified areas.
Okay,
When it comes to apartment housing, my thought is that they should be limited to the commercial highway corridors.
I agree totally. That's where I was going.
And they should require a special use permit. And that is somewhat restrictive. I mean, that basically tells your apartment developers, you come to town, you can build in the highway corridor, but we're gonna review it. Honestly, I mean, I think that's what the community was saying through the survey. And as much as I kind of like to, I like to attract developers to the town, right? I really do. I like to work with the building community. The problem we got, in my opinion at least, is, the Highway 5 corridor is so different. And so, where it might fit in one spot, it just may not work in another. So I just think, any technical typically is there's going to be a process to it. There's design, architecture typically involved, especially for anything that's say 8 units or more. I would expect to see that site development. So, by requiring city review, I don't see that we're getting in the way unnecessarily.
What about rezoning it to multi-use? Did that open it up to people to where they don't have to come here and get their property rezoned to continue on to the R3 for the multifamily homes, or to turn it into commercial C2, C3? Or does it open it up to where they have availability to do whatever they would want on their property?
I would not include apartment housing in the multi-use definition.
What about the commercial?
Not sure.
So if Sunrise or Beechwood Drive is re-sanctioned as multi-use throughout the whole road, does that open it up to anybody with an R1 to be able to decide if they want to go to C1 without coming through planning and zoning and having it rezoned?
So and that probably is just. If we were to actually rezone Beechwood as a mixed use district, first of all, it would have to go through the public hearing process that I described earlier. And of course, you would then have to define what you mean by mixed use. And in that, you would then have certain uses that are permitted, and then certain uses that are obviously not. So the commission would have that opportunity to say, well, within this mixed use district, we can set this, so on and so forth. We might have said, something else. One thing, Beechwood right now has a mix of, there's some R3 zoning, there's some R2 up there, there's some Hollywood.
The reason we pulled this doesn't it open it up to, the people that have the R3 and the C1 currently have already come through planning and zoning and acquired the proper classifications for what they've got on there now. Is that going to alleviate the people who own property from coming through planning and zoning and being completely transparent about what they're wanting to do on their property?
It just depends on how you write the zoning district definitions. First of all, any existing use would be grandfathered,
Right.
obviously. But first of all, I would not put R3 in a mixed use zone. We get that one section, so this is at least my vision of it, is the R3 would be more or less locked in place. And then there's some R2, I think, that's a question for the commission. R2 right now allows up to 4 units. The good old fashioned duplex zoning, what I think was R2 was really just 2 units. I think if you had attached 2 unit places along each, that would work. Four plexes.
I'm speaking specifically of commercial. I don't want a bar next to my house. So you're gonna have you're gonna change the zoning of complete Beechwood, and I don't wanna wake up 5 months from now and have a big loud honky tonk next to my house.
Sure, no, I understand. And I don't think that I would include a bar. I'm just, again, speaking for myself, I would include a bar in a permitted use in a mixed use zone.
So what kind of commercial businesses are allowed on this?
We're not there yet. That's my point. I don't have a definition of mixed use at this point. It's just to be determined.
But if this gets approved, then all of the actual finite definitions will come later. So you have this approved for multi-use, and it can be changed completely later when you start electing the rules into effect.
And this does not rezone anything. It doesn't.
So rezoning multi-use to Beechwood isn't rezoning, it's just, what is it doing?
It's just a plan for the future. The effect of the commission adoption of this plan does not rezone anything. just to be very clear.
Okay.
That's a separate process that would happen later if we want to pursue that.
Would that be voted on by the public, or is that something that's going to be an internal?
Anyone in that district who is proposed for rezoning will get a notification, as well as people within 185 foot of the subject properties to be rezoned.
So how does this, I'm just gonna be blunt, and I'm sorry, how does this affect Mr. Carter's property, who he came in trying to get it rezoned as C2? And if this goes through to where it's multi-use, is he able to go ahead and do whatever he would like on his property as far as commercial?
No, I withdrew that, and it will never be commercial zoned. In fact, that property's under contract being sold.
So, but to answer your question, no. The impact of the commission adoption, let's just say tonight was the final decision, it would have no impact on use, that would have to.
So if something like that were to come, any of the homeowners that want to keep residential in a small town feel where they live could come up and oppose to
Sure.
the views of something coming in,
Yes,
even with the multi-use sanction.
yes, absolutely.
I think that comes up later on 38, page 38, 39.
Yeah,
All that stuff.
we're gonna get to that.
Yeah, just stay on the goals and objectives. Again, I'm happy to change out, put them part of the order, it's all up to you guys how you feel about it.
The only one that anybody mentioned was Parks and Rec, and I don't know. It doesn't matter. I think it's nice that it leaves in there that we would be pursuing maybe having developers add, create some kind of a park space instead of us having to pay for it. I mean, that happens in a lot of bigger cities.
Yeah, I think we should keep that open in case somebody does want to, if they put up an apartment, say they want a park next to it, you know, that would be nice for them to, maybe the city could cost share the building of the park. You know, there's different, but I'd like to keep parks open, you know, and on the objectives, even if it's at the bottom.
Parks are expensive though,
Yeah,
in the long run.
Yeah,
The
but even if
insurance
it's
is
at the bottom.
astronomical.
Anything else on goals and objectives?
no, I think the goals are good.
Okay, so then let's talk about land use. So I'd like to get commission discussion and review or some direction on these various categories of use. We'll start with the commercial. So I don't have a big version of this, but what this map shows is that commercial is really, for the most part, limited to just the Highway 5 corridor, Route F, T. I have a distinction between low. I don't, we'll only back up. So it's not just along Highway corridor. There are some sections of lakefront. And it's all, for the most part, pretty much existing lakefront that's commercial. Yes. So let's just stay with the highway commercial. My recommendation is that we do, in the final map that gets shown, is that we show two different types of commercial zoning. What I would call general commercial, and then I guess what I would probably call high intensity, or I'm not sure the best way to term it, but in my opinion, the whole Highway 5 corridor from the north all the way down to Hurricane Deck, as well as FMTT, should be general commercial. And by that I mean you can do most any type of commercial in those districts, offices, services, retail, I mean, pretty much general commercial. Where I think we should be specific with the larger types of developments is down here at F and TT. There is some available undeveloped land. I say, I'm not sure. There's undeveloped vacant land. If in the future we see large scale interest, this is where I believe it should go. And I think our zoning should reflect that. I would not want to see somebody put some, somebody put some parcels together, even kind of in the middle section here. And, try to do a large scale commercial project. I think it fits. I think the only place it fits in town is in this central area. So, any comment on that?
That is limited to one, C1 or C2, is C3 involved in all of that, to where it could possibly bring in some large scale businesses, malls, racetrack, so on and so forth. Is there any contingency on that?
Where that might go is kind of a question mark. In my opinion, those types of uses probably should require a special use. On the one hand, it's stuff you would like to see, but it's really site specific to where it might fit. It's a tricky one, actually. Now, when I mean central area, I'm looking at basically from more or less your location to the direction, off the Tacoma property. Would be kind of the north extent of it. I would take that designation down to more or less to the Magruder Quarry area. That's central piece is what I'm thinking of, is the higher intensity commercial.
I think that, looking at this map, I think that's a good spot for any large commercial setup would be in that area. Versus some of these other spots along the highway.
Like you pointed out, unless you were gonna do some rezoning, there's
Yeah.
not enough space in some of those other
Right.
places to put large development in there. It's just not big enough.
They tried to do C3 at the RV park down by Woods 2 years ago.
One thing I wasn't sure what to do with, you can probably tell from the map, is all that space between Deer Valley Road and TT. I left it all commercial. Part of it is where the Deer Valley campground is going. There's some undeveloped parcels in there as well. I think commercials are best. Residential use of that area is probably just not realistic. And then, the other categories, industrial. I mean, I don't know what it would be, maybe but commercial. So that's why you get that big swath of red in the middle there. Anything else in commercial? Okay, let's talk about residential. Again, this is just, me throwing this out there. What this map does is it gets all the residential as single thing. And I think we spent a little bit of time trying to figure out where, two family might go or commercial might go, or by commercial, multi-family. I came to the conclusion that we should the residential zone should be single family. You guys might disagree. And just to be real clear, again, if you have two family uses in place now, what all that is, of course, is fine. But in general, I don't know, I'm not finding areas that we could target through the future land use map for two family. I think we might want to be open to that. Let's say somebody came in and want to build a section of townhomes. Maybe 4 units attached, or something like that. Okay, fine, but that would require a special use permit.
Now, that's basically over there off of Beechwood. Remember the guy came in, we changed that over there for him,
Yes.
said he was gonna do that. I don't know what happened on it.
Right. Yeah, he had some plans, but we haven't seen any actual construction.
But in general, you're talking about multifamily going in what would be considered the commercial area, right?
Yes.
But a smaller, like maybe a 4-family or like a couple of condos together, townhomes would be entertained going into residential with a special use permit.
Correct.
Why wouldn't a multifamily home, like townhomes like that, be in R2 instead of commercial?
I mean, they could, but they would require special use permit. I feel rather strongly that the lakefront should be reserved for single family only, almost without question. And then, when you think of these other parcels, I just have a hard time landing on one that says that's a great spot for duplexes. It's just.
Well, we're challenged very severely by our geographical land. That's a large part of our issues. I mean, look when they built Woods, what they went through to put that there. I mean, that was 9 months of excavation. So a big box can afford to do that, but they usually come at a cost because it's gonna be TIF based. And that doesn't really pertain to 7 apartments or townhomes. They're not gonna spend that kind of money out of pocket. Come in and do that.
Going back to priorities, good point. If we were to pursue rezoning after the plan adoption, my priority would be to address the commercial. And
Correct.
mainly because it's been difficult to manage some of the developments within our own zoning code. And I really do think there's a need to clean up the commercial zoning. With the residential, that's a much lower priority to me. What that would be is we'd be taking some of this agricultural zone property, rezoning as a residential. In my opinion, it's just a lower level priority. As it comes to us, we can deal with it. But to actually get ahead of it, rezoning now, it's, in my opinion, not all. It's something we can think of in the future, but it wouldn't be.
Well, wouldn't it be easy to prioritize that just by going back and looking at a building permit?
I mean, if we get that type of stuff coming at us, I think we want to be real friendly to it. One of the reasons why we do the future land use, let's just say somebody comes in and takes this and they want to rezone it's cultural to R1. We say, yeah, thank you for coming to town. Yes, absolutely, we support that, right? But to get ahead of it, rezoning ahead of that, I think is frankly somewhat unnecessary.
So with commercial right now, if you have a commercial property and you want to put a business on there that fits the current zoning, we don't require anybody to go to review, or we do require them?
Yeah.
We don't. Okay. Only if it's gonna be rezoned. Is that right?
Yeah, the rezoning, of course, comes to this.
Right. But that's when there'd be a review because of the rezoning.
And that's maybe a secondary type of question to where we're at now, but it has been a question I asked myself, but, you know, what level of development should require review by the planning commission, probably the board? And I've had mixed feelings about it, frankly, because this part of me says somebody wants to come town, put up a commercial building and go to work, start his business, wonderful, good for you. Let's just get out of the way and let it happen. On the other hand, there's only so many pieces of ground available. And I think there's some merit in saying, look, we have a certain standard we want you to meet, so let's make sure you meet that standard and run it through the board. That's really kind of maybe a conversation for later, you know, once we get down into revising our zoning codes. But
Well, just quickly, I think that fits in with one of our goals of being open and transparent. That if you're gonna have businesses coming in, especially if it's a large or different business, that there should be a hearing on that. There should be a review.
yeah. No, and clearly there's a threshold. We got to, there's a level of development that should require city review. What I always think refer to as the onesie twosies, meaning, you know, somebody puts in a small building, you know, call it 6,000, 8,000 square feet, wants to operate some type of construction business out there. Fine. You know, no particular need to run to the commission, in my opinion, at least. But something on a larger scale, I think, should reasonably go through some review. So,
You all meet maybe once a month and sometimes not that much. Why couldn't it be specific to each situation to where we alleviate any kind of forbearance of a business that would not be something that the people around them, like if you're rezoning for multi-use, have everyone come in individually or leave it just as it is and rezone it to C1, C2 on an individual basis so that we're all kept completely aware, because I'm sorry, your website's very hard to navigate. And it's not like everybody knows what's gonna be at every one of your meetings, and I understand that people within a certain amount of an area gets notified. But it's something that should be done on an individual basis, so that the family members don't have something that they're not wanting their families to be around their children. I mean, Beechwood Drive as it is, my kid couldn't have ridden his bike down that road without any commercial businesses on it. The road was way too busy. You start to get more things going down such a small road with right now, 5 businesses on it. And the rest of it's residential. Could it not be on a base to base instead of completely formatting it different to where it leaves some of these up in the air and impacts our families?
I mean, yes, it could. It's that kind of comes later, I think, as we get into actually revamping the zoning code.
Since we're on residential, I'm not in favor of the multi-use mixed use past Rock Harbor where Poly lived is. I feel like up until Poly and even down around Rock Harbor, it's arguably almost an entire business district there anyway. But once you make that right onto Beechwood, it turns into a residential area.
And I live on the front half of it where it would be impacted. And I'm not completely opposed, I do understand what you're saying, but there are, 5 businesses right there. But there again, I wouldn't want Haynes to turn out to be something that would play blasting music at my home or something that's going to impact my quality of life on a daily basis. Right now, the businesses are very compassionate and very, quiet, and it is a residential area. Our main street here in Sunrise Beach is Highway 5 and F Road. It's not Beechwood Drive. I mean, Bare Bottoms Road would be more of a large scale main road than ours would be because they have a large business that's used to the traffic.
Wasn't Beechwood designed to be the main street at one point for Sunrise Beach? Or not?
Again, I I don't.
I mean, it's always, I've lived here a long time and it's always had these business. Used to be hotels and resorts all up and down that, gas stations. There used to be all kinds of things up and down that road.
My property was one of those, it's not anymore.
There
It
you
just
have it.
don't last. That was in 1950.
So it was okay then, but not now.
We've got a lot more people coming up and down these roads that we don't have the space for. Have you been on Beechwood when it's busy?
And yes, I drive on Beechwood
Would
quite
you allow
often.
your child to ride a bike down Beechwood as it is without a large business down there?
I rode bicycle on highways. I rode my bicycle to other towns when I was a kid,
They had.
20 miles
They
away.
had
I went away, me and the
people
boys.
living in these places were probably not a good view as the ones.
Kids,
living
I tell you what, kids can, watch out for themselves on bikes quite well. So I don't think you have a legitimate argument about
I
your
wouldn't
kid
allow
riding a bike.
My child or any.
Well, that's your
small child
opinion.
On these roads, nor on Highway 5, there's no shoulders.
Yeah.
And people are.
I see people riding
very
bikes on Highway 5, so. We have to put commercial somewhere,
You've got
and
Highway 5.
getting multi-use out of that road is a good idea. You gotta have income for the city in order to enjoy the water and sewer that we provide, right?
I understand you have to have income for the city, but the fact of the matter is that there's a majority of residential area down there, not businesses. You go down B and it's all.
I think it's a beautiful area and I don't see why you're so concerned.
I wouldn't want a big industrial place next to my.
We're not talking about
Or
a big
even-
industrial
Even
place.
more traffic going past.
That's not gonna magically happen. It has to come to the board for that to
And I
happen.
do understand that.
And we're not gonna let that happen.
You say that now, but you're not gonna be on the board forever, sir.
No, not right now. That's what I said.
I was gonna save this for mixed use, but since we're discussing Beechwood, that's the reason I came. I'm one of the residents that live in that area, and I was just curious about the purple, the mixed use. And I think the city manager's given us a very good explanation of what it is. It's not gonna change anything for now. I would also like to say that I think the city has done a very good job of putting all of this together. It's not perfect. I agree with, Jean a little bit. I mean, I would like to see it. I walk that road. I don't have a bike and I don't run. It's kind of old, but I walk it all the time. There is a lot of traffic, but I can walk it. Got hit by a car in 21 years. And the only question that I had was that I think as you get further down Beechwood, I was thinking Kansas City Way, maybe not Rock Harbor, but it does become more residential. I would like to see the purple a little bit less than it is.
And I agree with you. When he changed when he put out this future use map, we noticed that, it became more purple further up the road. And that is one of my concerns also, which I was gonna address to Steve at the proper time. And also, the other thing on this future use map that affects me personally is he's changed my lot from R1 to commercial, along with, Sue, which lives right across the street from me. So,
But I mean, the one thing we can take away is this is not,
this is just a
this is
future,
rezoning, this is-
future use, so this is not set in stone.
Well, the purpose of putting the use in there is to encourage that type of use
Right.
in that area. So my opinion is if you put multi-use on that street, you're encouraging other than residential use. I mean, it even says that in the plan that that's what we're trying to invite. The only complaints that I've really received about this from anybody was it goes down Beechwood past Hollywood and it shouldn't go past it. That's really the main complaint.
But it's okay for you to preserve your residential or commercial and her to preserve her.
Well, I'm just saying that,
On multi-use.
no, I'm not fighting for me. I'm just saying that this map, that happened to be changed on the map. I've got the old map here and I got the future map here. If you look at the past map, this future map is totally changed from the old map.
Let me just explain real, I'll try to make it brief. So, it was my idea my idea alone. I never spoke to Mr. Carter at all about this at any point through the process. To designate Beechwood as a mixed-use district. An initial draft stopped at pilot thing. And I looked at it in preparation for the final. I made a judgment call and I said, show it the whole way, throw it out there, okay? And so that's how we got to this point. And, you know, it's the commission's call, right? I don't have strong feelings about it either way, I really don't. There are commercial type of uses along that route. Then, you know, there's residential.
Yeah, in fact, there's 2 commercial buildings on the county line, Beechwood.
And then, just to be clear, when I think of mixed use, I don't think of uses that would generate a lot of traffic or noise. What I'm thinking about is small scale services, office type uses, that type of thing. Maybe some very limited retail possibly, and by that I mean like, you know, the corner shop or something like that. And I mean, let's face it, I think it's unlikely we'd see that. But I wouldn't suggest any sort of, you know, large scale retail at all on that street. So that's what I was thinking of when it came to mixed use. And I was also thinking of the need to clean up the residential piece too, because we have a smattering of R2, R3. So within that, I think my vision at least was to permit 2-family construction with some sort of, you know, lot limitation. You'd have to have a certain size lot. So anyway, I just want to make clear for the public that that's how it came about.
What are we on now?
I would make one other point, because I think Mr. Delaney said it's kind of important. This is not a rezoning. I can't say that enough. You all understand that. But it is and kind of an invitation, if you will. So if this goes through and we say, just stay on Beechwood, you know, we designated Beechwood as a mixed use, and we get that type of use coming at us for rezoning in the future, okay, well, this is a signal that we would be open to that to some degree. So it doesn't mean that someone can do something. That's not true, but it does mean that the city is sending a signal of some sort that we are open to those types of uses.
Well, I'm just not, you know, we went through a lot to, have the meeting about, Mr. Carter's property, caused quite an uproar, and I just can't see carrying the multi-use any further than it is right now. I just really don't wanna see that. Yeah, cause you guys went to bat for that, and I just, you know, I'm just,
So there's no other areas that would be possible for multi-use either. I was just not surprised to see one purple zone. Like there's no other places in the village.
What about down the road with Frankie and Louise?
I gave some thought to that, and right now, I didn't see it. I mean, I think as things go forward, you know, the commission could give some consideration to that. The one area I gave a little bit of thought to is half south of the existing city limits. It's outside city limits, but I just kind of wondered in my own mind what that might look like if it were to develop in the future. Right now, we're calling it residential. I think if we saw some type of commercial use proposal on that corridor, we might, I would be open to that personally, but no, to answer your question, I mean, I just, you know, I kind of looked for something, you know, this.
I would be open for anything commercial south of there. I just, as long as we stay away from the lakefront, you know, we got to stay away from the lakefront. We do already have some grandfathered places in, lakefront, and I wouldn't wanna really see any more bars or big, condos or any of that sort of thing within the city limits.
Right, and this map is basically saying that.
Yeah.
It really
Mhm.
is. You know, let me, and I don't mean to take up a lot of time, but this is an interesting parcel. I have no idea who owns it. Castle Garden Road comes up here. We've got a lot of lakefront development along Castle Garden. It's this big acreage right here. It includes some bluff top lake view, right? You know, this is a great exercise. What if we got, you know, what we talked about internally is some type of event center, or a wedding center, bank center, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, that might be great actually up there. But for now, you know, our thought is let's not open the door to that type of use, but rather kind of be protective. And, you know, it is, I think most people don't understand the city finances run off of sales tax. And so we are always trying to find sales tax businesses in Brady town. And so, you know, that would be an argument in favor of classifying more areas as commercial around town. Because we want to bring more commercial to town.
And that piece of property you're looking at and pointing to, that's what we call the cliffs. There is really very little lake access unless you wanna jump down 100 feet to the water, you know? So if there were in the future, somebody wanted to build an event center there or something, they would be limited. I mean, how could they get to the water other than a tram or something like that? I mean, man, it's high up there.
I hate to bring up Johnny Morris, Will, because I don't know if Johnny Morris, I forget what place you call, but there's a beautiful place that overlooks Taylor Rock Lakes, got a little chapel up there. Help me out, anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you,
It's a
I know what
beautiful,
you're talking, I can remember the name of it.
and so I never even stepped foot up here, just to be clear.
What do you, there's something
Top of
up
the
there,
rock.
is that what you're
On the
talking?
top of the rock, thank you, top of the rock, very cool. You know, that's kind of what I thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool if somebody could put a little wedding event center up there?
Well, now, I've walked that property. You'd be surprised what's up there.
But from a planning perspective, if we wanted to open the door and invite that type of use, we might consider putting some commercial on that parcel. I think we should be a little more cautious and a little more, you know, protective of the existing, especially because let's face it, if somebody wants to develop a wedding center here, it's gonna change the character of this neighborhood. I mean, it just is. You know, I think those types of projects can be managed and, you know, become complementary, or they could be a frankly big mess that would be a problem for the neighborhood. So,
So on Fresh, correct, right?
Yeah,
So you're currently residential, and if they're wanting to move you just.
he put me down as commercial.
Unless he requests it to be commercial, it'll still be residential, is that correct? Or will he automatically be receiving his bills from the county assessed on commercial value, or will it be assessed on residential value since it's currently residential? Because it
That's
goes
the
from
question I came
19%
to him with, yeah.
to 33% on residential.
but it would make a difference. And that was honestly a mistake on my part, because Fred pointed out to me, and I thought, okay. My thought process was that whole Bear by Mary, you know, expand it out a little bit, should be commercial, but, yeah, I got the.
Yeah, but not those lakefront lots where I am and Sue is.
So it's okay for people on the board to get theirs to say.
No, that's not what we're saying.
That are complaining or
No.
saying that it's just, it's not.
That's not what anybody's saying. We're not saying that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, so the way it's gonna work is like, for example, mixed use. It is like I described it, it's designed to invite residential and commercial to the area, but it doesn't rezone any specific property. That would still have to go
Through the board.
through the
To the
board.
board.
Correct.
But it is going to invite and say, hey, as a city, we're open to this type of development.
Yes.
But do you know how often I see what's on your planning and zoning stuff? Because it's not easily found. So how would any resident actually know to come up here and specifically address an issue that's on here?
You could probably ask any realtor.
So I should go to a realtor and find out what's gonna be happening in my community?
It's on the
They know
website.
who's gonna buy what.
A neighbor called me today, but I don't know that. If you just go to upcoming meetings on the
Right.
website.
You have to go to another place to find this opposed to the agenda.
I found it.
I'm not saying I didn't find it either, but it's not as easy to access for people who aren't computer savvy. And you have to come on every month to look and see if there's a meeting, what it's regarding, and navigate through the system to find out what you need to address or not, or you're not gonna have people coming up here to support the city or support what they believe in because they have no idea what's going on.
We do post the meetings, correct,
On your website,
on the website, correct?
right?
And was all this information on the website, and it was when
Yes.
But it's not easy to find.
well, I'm not very computer smart,
Yeah,
I found it
thank you.
pretty easy.
Say you, it's
I
not.
found two
Yeah.
different places to get to this big packet. It's not in there with your agenda
Or-
and your meetings. It's in a completely different place. I would have not known about this if I didn't know you have to go to different places to look for it.
Well, I've never had a problem with anything, finding out anything about meetings or, I think it's well informed.
You can always call town hall too.
And if you're not computer
I'm not
savvy,
lost, and I'm perfectly computer savvy. I'm just saying you've got 421 citizens here in Sunrise Beach. It should be made more available to where people know if they need to come up here and discuss an issue with their.
it's been printed in the newsletter, go to the website. I don't know what your beef is,
It's not a beef.
it seems to be,
I don't wanna have a bar next to my home.
none of us do,
Exactly.
none of us
And you're
do.
opening it up and you're inviting that into a
No.
whole room.
But no. No, that's not the case.
So
No.
if you don't mind, from a commercial standpoint, I think I understand where the commission wants to go. General agreement on the two classes, residential. I didn't hear any objection to the single family residential for all the residential areas of the city. Mixed use, the idea is to scale it back to polylift. Right, scale back the Beechwood mixed use district to.
I think that would make everybody happy as far as the people on the beach.
Be fine with me.
Sure.
I don't wanna stir up anything that's
There's
already
really
been
nothing
decided.
past that point anyway,
Yeah,
for development wise.
So moving on to the lakefront, I mean, there's not a lot of undeveloped lakefront,
I've got one.
although there is certainly opportunity for some. When it comes to lakefront, we're doing the exact same thing. We're basically designating all single family residential with a few,
Right.
very few exceptions. And as far as inside the city limits, I don't think there's any changes. There aren't. So, but one question for the commission, when it comes to lakefront development, do you guys want to see larger lots, or would you?
That's gonna be, I mean, to actually control that zoning would be hard to do because there's some of these lots, they only have 50 or
50
60
feet,
feet
yeah.
water.
Exactly.
And, but up at the
Top,
to
up
the
the
road,
top,
it might
they
be
have
200, yeah.
Exactly.
So you
That's the way
either have
mine
to
is.
come up with a designation of you need X amount of square feet to put a house on, or, you know,
Yeah, cause I'm second tier and mine's still pie shaped.
right. It's just, it's a thing, topographical thing. I mean, it's,
Yeah, I know, and
the only way I can see we can control it is say, you have to have X amount of square feet to put a house. In fact, that's the way they just, like if you apply to put in a septic system, you're gonna have to be required to have so many X amount of square foot.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of you all might not be familiar with Shawnee Preserve subdivision. But it's, it's the newest subdivision in town. It was developed back in 2021. The lot sizes generally are they're larger. However, they still have the kind of feel of being like on top of each other a little bit. And I don't have strong feelings about it, but I am curious as to what the commission might think.
I think it's gonna be pretty well controlled. If you're in an area where water and sewer is not available, that's gonna be kind of automatically controlled for somebody to put a house there because of the stipulations, just have to put in a septic tank or a lateral system.
Yeah, I think we can probably defer this conversation a little bit further down the road, but.
You're talking about the development on Pisces, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's just a bit of a question mark, just what you all are comfortable with, the density, if you are going, like, there are sections, there's some undeveloped sections up here, or at least some vacant lots and stuff, that could be divided further, and you could actually have, potentially have, 3 units on a space that now has 2 or even 1, you know what I'm saying?
Well, so for normal property right now that's residential, it's set up for, if you're gonna subdivide to less than 5, it's just, you can just do it and get a permit. You don't have to get any, there's no hearing for it, right?
No, any subdivision still requires to come through.
Okay, all right.
Yes,
All right.
by that, 2 lots. There's been some consideration given to easing that requirement, but 85 square foot is the single family lot minimum.
Mhm.
And, as you all know, that's not that big, especially if you're thinking about lakefront. So you could potentially take a parcel that's, less than half an acre and carve it up into 3 or 4 lots. And we have a little bit of that now, older type of development, but yeah, maybe it's a question for, some future meetings when we get into revising the regs, but it's been kind of a question mark in my own mind as to what the community feel for that should be. You could, through the zoning, if you wanted, you could create a rather large lot requirement and limit, how much development you see. But I don't know. I think we ought to be open to that, but at the same time, make sure it just doesn't get crammed.
So on page 39, it does, in the, plan here, it does say, with major subdivisions, 5 lots or greater, that requires a public review, but it doesn't say less than that requires
Okay.
a review.
So, what I mean by that is a major subdivision requires 185-foot notices, a public hearing and all that.
Mhm.
Anything less than 5, we still requires review, but it doesn't require the notifications to go out.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's reasonable. 2 and 3 lot subdivisions, an actual public hearing, notifications. We can do it. It's kind of you all.
It kind of goes to kind of what she was saying, that if, you have a property and it's across from some land, or where there is a house, or maybe there is no houses, and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and they're pouring foundations, and you never even had a chance to have anything to say about it. So that's what I'm saying.
So also on page 38, you have this new construction development in established commercial zones should generally be permitted by right, with no public review and approval required. So if it's commercial property, they don't have to come to us and say, hey, we're gonna build a soda shop, or we're gonna build a,
Right now, they don't. And it's a question mark as to what we would require forward. If what a good example is, let's just right up here, I've used this example before. There's some vacant ground just
Right.
to the south. You know, if a guy wants to put up a new insurance building with one other office right next door, under our current zoning, if his project meets the zoning, fine, go for it.
Mhm.
And honestly, I think that's probably what we should do. You know, the community survey should say there was not a lot of appetite for regulation. There's a lot of appetite for, you know, get the government out of the way, right?
Mhm.
So on the other, if, let's just say, I'll name names, McAdoo, to develop a site, because there's a fair amount of acreage over there. It's a liquor store, it's gonna have traffic, you know, that probably should come through review. So that's not in our code now, nothing, frankly, really nothing like that comes through.
Well, we need something that states at what point do we bring it to the board? You know, we can't just say, well, they can do whatever they want on that.
You do have to be careful.
But what it's talking about, it's already commercial, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, so if it's already zoned commercial, and a commercial business comes in, they should just be able to get a building permit as long as permissions abide by
Commercial.
what our commercial zoning says.
It's commercial.
And I agree, but I still think there's a level of development that maybe should require it to come through here, especially if it generates a lot more traffic or noise, or, you know, it's kind of hard to write this in your zoning code, but it can be done. I'd hate to be the guy that would hold up a nice project around the town.
Right.
Oh, you gotta go through public hearing, you gotta, you know, do all this. On the other hand, I'd also hate to be the guy who shepherds it through and nobody knows about it, and all of a sudden, how's that? You know, it's just a tricky little balance.
And since we have it set up where you have residential next to commercial spaces, whether it be next to or back to back or whatever across from, I mean, the people who live there then don't even get an opportunity to know, you know, yeah, it's commercial, but they have no idea what's coming until the sign comes up and the bulldozer shows up.
Yeah.
You didn't like it when they were putting in the RV park and they were going across y'all's driveways.
Oh,
You know, but you came to the meeting and you expressed that you didn't like the fact that they were ruining your guys' property and so on and so forth. And they chose not to do C3, so you didn't have to worry about having a very large complex coming in there. And that was you in this office. I mean, it's your home. You want to preserve your solace,
Sure.
as do the rest of us.
But they also, it developed under the rules and regs of what the code said they could do.
Correct, and that's why some of us are coming up here stating that we would really like to preserve and go on a one-on-one basis instead of completely changing the whole place. And then, so Susie can come in and put a boutique next to my house, and that would be perfectly fine. But I really don't wanna have a race car business, you know, revving up their engines. I can already hear the music coming from Bare Bottoms, and I can hear the marina and so on and so forth. You know, you've got to kind of preserve your quality of life as well. And that's all I'm requesting, is that you take that into consideration when you are deciphering where you want to allow businesses to go without any supervision of the board.
However, I will say this, when someone bought that piece of commercial property, they bought it knowing that they fell in what they were getting into when they bought it. Then suddenly the city's gonna come to them and say, whoa, no, you can't put that in there.
I knew that I was residential when I bought mine.
Yes,
I didn't expect you guys to decipher that you could change it to multi-purpose and not on a one-on-one basis decide if you wanted another bar in here, or if you wanted a shopping complex, as did the people on the property next to you. You didn't like the fact that there might possibly be a large complex coming in there, and the traffic that not only comes through their driveway, but they also use your guys' subdivision to go into there, and it wasn't something that you guys enjoyed. And I'm just stating that I think it should go on a one-on-one basis. As it is, if you want it rezoned, you've got qualified people up here to say, I'd like to rezone it as a C2, or I would like to rezone it, at least you have control of the size of each business coming in and what you as a community and a board would like to reflect our city.
What is your property zoned right now?
R1
R1, and where is it located on that map?
on Beechwood Drive.
I know, but there's several,
And
on the old.
I'm not gonna put my address out on a live feed.
Okay, fine. I'm just looking at the map here and was trying to figure out about where your property was, cause we have commercial, then multi-use, and then it goes back to residential.
Was it multi-use before this? This is new.
There's a little line there, isn't there?
Should we move on or?
Yeah, I'm ready to move on.
Well, it's something that's down the road we could discuss. Right now, these are your suggestions.
Sure. Yeah,
It doesn't mean that we're passing this.
right, this is all preliminary. Last thing, and I'll try to make it quick. Industrial, we have really one industrial property in town, which is Polylift. This is my little idea. This is Como, the North Como facility that opened here earlier this year. The question I was asking myself was, if we had demand for small industrial, light industrial, where would we put it? And so I thought, maybe up here. I don't know what the topography is like. I have no idea what that existing industrial parcel is used for. But I did suggest that that potentially be a little industrial here. How you would get there, you have to access it off of, through private property, because there's not an actual road. So it's really, I think, somewhat unlikely to develop that fashion, but had to get some designation, and frankly, residential back there doesn't seem to really work for me at least. So that was just one little section of, if we had that sort of demand come to us, maybe that's where we put it. The flip side of that thinking or that discussion is, I don't see many other areas in town where that would work. Again, light industrial type uses, we don't have a lot of them. But if we're trying to find a spot where they would work, or I'm not sure where that would be. So.
It'd be kind of hard to imagine something that big wants to come here, something that industrial. It would be hard to fathom with the way the land lies around here that anybody'd wanna invest in something like that. You talk about how hard it is to get a contractor to build a house, boy.
The water and wastewater system, frankly, doesn't really have capacity for a big user.
Right.
Not all your industrials use a lot of water, but it can happen. So I think it's unlikely we'll see that type of development.
Most generally, it comes from a commercial satellite property. They find a place out of the way, mind out of sight. That's gonna be a place where they're gonna store a certain amount of material or whatever.
So any comment on that?
No.
Okay, so next steps, the public hearing is required in order to get in the newspaper 15 days in advance of the next meeting. It has to be in the newspaper by the 17th of October. And so then, of course, the final plan needs to be done at the same time, posted on the website, made available here. Assuming the commission is good with that schedule, that's what I would do. Make the changes that we discussed tonight.
So there will be changes made for this proposed map, and we'll draw back some of the multi-use on Beechwood. And are you gonna change mine and Sue's property back to residential?
Yes,
We'd appreciate it.
yes.
Okay.
And then just so we're clear, I mean, it's a public hearing at the next meeting. It
Right.
doesn't mean there's never a reason, especially this type of thing, to rush it. If something comes up, you know, whatever, the intent is not to get it done in November.
Right. So what's our time limit on getting this into the government in order to get the grants that we need? What's our time frame?
It's helpful, don't get me wrong, it's helpful, but it's not a requirement. Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, that we applied for earlier this year, I sent them one of those preliminary reports, and I know it's helpful. But it's not a requirement. So, I mean, I do wanna get it done and move on to the next phase, which is, you know, rewriting some of our zoning code. But, yeah, don't feel like it's, you know, set in stone or it's gotta be.
Right. So the next meeting for looking at this proposed future map use in its revised version would be when?
November 3rd.
Okay, and as that is a public meeting then?
Yes, it will be an advertised public hearing.
Alright,
And
so can I ask everybody a question here that's on the board? Is there anything on here that you're all not happy with that we have not discussed? Anybody?
I think the changes are quite appropriate, the two changes to be made. I mean, I don't have an issue with that at all.
All right, well, I think, if ever, really look at the map, you know, when you go home, study it, decide if there's anything that you don't like, and bring it to Steve's attention before the deadline. So when the meeting comes up, we can hash this out. Because just like today, when I come to the meeting, I'd already seen Steve twice this week. And I brought up my property first, and then I noticed that the multi-use on Beechwood, so I came up and talked to him again.
In regard to the lady's complaint about it being multi-use, is there anything that we can do with that to alleviate some, I mean, is there any way of?
She's a residential between two commercial properties.
Yeah, I've looked at where she's at.
Oh,
Is there?
So, I mean, how are you gonna fix that? Tell them
I was
people
asking,
that
I didn't
commercial
know.
Okay,
zoning,
let's look at, yeah, how do we fix
Yeah.
that? How do we make her happy?
you can't.
I mean, I'm not sure. Obviously, the mixed use has been scaled back to, the pilot area, and, I mean, the map will show that run of Beechwood being residential. You can operate home-based businesses under Missouri law,
Right.
with certain limitations.
Yeah, a contractor can have a business out of his own. Do I want him setting up a lumber yard and selling lumber out of his own? No.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we have to talk to her more if so, but I don't see any particular issue.
I don't either.
Motion adjourned.
I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all, appreciate it. Always,
You did it.
well, you all know, I kind of like to stay in the background, but
Yeah, and then